Hey everybody, I'm late once again, actually later than the other night, but um, basically late starting because Monday didn't feel well. Feel better now, and as a result, thought, well, okay, I won't do a show on Monday, and I thought, okay, I'll do a show. So I'm going to do a brief, this is brief and it's late, so I'm going to throw this out because Monday was a day that I feel, and I will explain why I say I feel, is one that should be marked in history. Um, and I'll say with the greetings just right after I'm done with this. I remember the moon landing when I was a small boy. And, well, small boy, 1969, right? So I was born in 1962, and that means I was right there 7 years old. And that was my first introduction to people whose names are burned into my memory, like, for example, Walter Cronkite and his famous "And That's the Way It Is," or Wally Schirra, who was always the commentator, kind of Walter Cronkite's right hand, you know? And then, of course, there was on the ABC, there was Jules, I forgot Jules' last name. Jules, what made me want to say Jules Verne, but that's not his name. And there was of course, other notable commentators of the day. And that was the time when you had just, what, 3 networks, and the space race was captured on all 3. CBS, ABC, and NBC, okay? And we had the moon launch on all 3 of them. And it was really a massively big deal. You didn't miss anything. Or so you thought. In retrospect, we were shown as much as the few cameras that were posted would allow us to see, and the NASA feed was allowing us to see through the networks, right? And that was it. But we didn't know that then. Everything was new. And it was in that context that I watched Neil Armstrong take a walk on the moon. And I tried to, and you had to wake up early. There were years of show demonstrations of rockets, and then leading up to the moon launch, and then afterward, and there was Apollo 8, and then Apollo 9, Apollo 13, all the way up to Apollo 13 and 15. Of course, there were the accidents and everything, but during that period of what some people call American exceptionalism, it was really exciting to see us reach for the stars, reach for space. And so it's in that context that I celebrate what happened today. And I didn't capture it while it was going on because I was sick and sleeping. But here, watch this, folks. This is something. You got to see this.
Standing by for touchdown. Touchdown confirmed.
That was something. That was the NASA people celebrating the moon landing. They stuck it, and it is at a place called Elysium Planitia on Mars. And I thought, well, how do I, normally I talk about the Raiders and NFL stuff, but I like to be expanding big, and, well, it's not even expansive and think big, but I think it's very important to have perspective as to what's important versus what's small. And when something like that happens, something that's really life-changing, it's going to change your life. The fact that I'm talking about it with you is one small example of what's going to happen beyond it. But then I began to think, why is it that the Mars landing and the Raiders have to be separate topics? How come they can't be fused together? And I thought, how can I fuse them together, right? And then it dawned on me, of course, the Raiders would leave Las Vegas for Mars. That's how. That's right. Think about it. The Raiders' current Las Vegas agreement takes them to what, 2036? A lot can happen between now and 2036. They may decide to break their lease, and some person or persons that come along who are trillionaires do some sort of deal where they buy the Raiders through the NFL and with the idea of creating the first interstellar football organization, interstellar pro football organization. And so the Oakland Raiders would be the first interstellar pro football organization, right? Think about that. I mean, that would be, I mean, let's think about that. I don't know how to conceive how that would happen. Well, okay, first of all, we would have to have, how would it happen? We would have to have a, first of all, we'd have to have a colony, right? We would have to have a colony there of 70,000, you know, town. We would have to have some means, and Silver and Black has a great point. He says maybe NASA can help land a Super Bowl for the Raiders in 2020 on a new stadium. You know, as a prelude to that, you know. But I do think there's a scenario here, because we have to start thinking about the expansion of the human existence beyond Earth. We're not, fortunately, getting to a point where we have fewer people on Earth, although we have, some say we have zero population growth, right? Or Jay Boogie says a 6-month road trip. That's a possibility. Yeah, 6-month road trip. Maybe we start maybe the Raiders would start treating Mars like the NFL. Maybe the Raiders in the NFL would treat Mars like they treat London right now. Okay. Rob Iman says lost. I don't like to insult owners, but Rob Iman says Mark Davis is lost in space. So basically, what you're saying is we already have a head start. That's pretty funny. This is hilarious. I think there's something to this. You know, I don't think this is far-fetched. Because at some point, look, we're already there. Okay, well, we have a rover there, right? But we would have to build some type of domed facility on Mars. That would be enough to accommodate a football field. Jay Boogie says, if a team loses that game, it would be a long flight back. It sure would. It would be a long flight back. I mean, you would have to actually, I think, schedule-wise, you'd have to put the Mars games at the end of the year, and have it actually at the, yeah, you'd have to put them at the end of the year, and you'd actually have to reorient the Super Bowl so that the Super Bowl for the previous year was played before the start of the next year, right? You know, and as Silver Black says, coming to a stadium near you, far, far away. It would be interstellar. Think about it. It would be interstellar gambling. Because people on Earth could gamble and play, right? And Rob Ivan says, how would they tackle on Mars? You know what? I hadn't thought about that. I think Mars is 1/4 our gravity, something like that. So you would have to have some type of that's interesting. That's a great point. It's worth following up on, because I don't think anyone's thought about this. This marks the first program, unless you can find another one. This marks the first program where anyone has tackled the idea of the NFL on Mars, right? I mean, right? So Jesus Mara says the Raiders Vegas Stadium is going to be. I didn't see that. Anyway, Rob Iman says danger, Wall Robinson, and Silver and Black says just use CERN. CERN is the search for extraterrestrial. No, that's not CERN. That's SETI. I forgot what CERN stands for. Spell it out for me, because I don't feel like looking it up right now. But the whole point is, I think this is exciting. How would that work? So here are the things we'd have to think about. The mechanics of playing professional football in the Martian environment. Oh, the black hole, CERN. Okay. Oh, you mean the black hole could get us back? You don't want a black hole between Mars and Earth. You don't want that. Let me tell you something. You don't want that, because that would signal the end of existence as we know it. Jesus says the Raiders Vegas Stadium is going to be opening in Mars. No, that's not what you're saying. But my point is that I'm really serious about this. Okay, I'm really serious about this. My point is that, oh, by the way, the Raiders Stadium will not play a full season until 2021. So forget that. Opening is one thing, but playing a full season, the NFL season, that's not happening in 2020. Forget it. So anyway, moving along. In fact, by 2036, maybe the Raiders Vegas Stadium will serve as a model for the Martian Stadium because it's domed. But yeah, it would have to be a dome stadium, obviously. So you dome it, you create its own interior environment. You only deal with the gravitation, right? So yeah. Now, who would the opposing team be? So I mentioned the Raiders, but the Raiders can't, play themselves. Well, they could, but it'd be kind of weird. Who should the opposing team be? Let's put it to a vote. Throw out a team out there. I'll say the Oakland Raiders versus the Dallas Cowboys in space. How's that? Or how about a classic rivalry like the Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers in space, right? Or the Raiders and the New England Patriots, the Tuck Rule in space. And Rob Iman says Raiders versus Jaguars on Mars. Why Jaguars? Of all the teams, because the Raiders and Jaguars have no history. How about the Raiders and the Broncos? Miguel says Philadelphia Eagles. The Raiders and Eagles. That's a good West Coast, East Coast, replay of Super Bowl 15, right? Still doesn't quite ring my bell, but I like Raiders, Broncos. Oh, of course. What am I talking about? Raiders versus the 49ers in space. Rob Iman says Shad Khan would love to have his team play on Mars. So you're thinking in terms of who would pay for the contest. I get it. That's a good idea. Shad Khan. That's something to pick up on. How would that work, right? How would that work? That is something to pick up on. How about, let's see, Jerry Jones or Sons would go for it? Silver and Black says, question for you, Z. Did you know that Mexico City Stadium had like 1,000 immigrants in it, and that's why they canceled the Rams and Chiefs game? Which, no, that's ridiculous. I mean, look, I want to say something about that, okay? Focusing on the immigration issue is really ignorant. I'll just leave it at that. It really is, okay? So I don't know how we got to a point where we are concerned about each other in a way that's basically boils down to a type of racism, but maybe I'm misunderstanding because Silver and Black is like, what do you mean? Silver and Black is a question for you. Did you know that Mexico City Stadium had like 1,000 immigrants in it, and that's why they canceled, which technically isn't a lie cause field? And I'm only reading what you wrote, so I'm not understanding. Oh, you're not blaming immigrants. Okay, I guess I don't understand what, I could look up what you mean. I could, copy paste it. 1,000, you said Mexico City, Rams, these Chiefs, Mexico City. I just thought they had a lot of events in it. I didn't think there was anybody living there. Yeah, I'm not even seeing that at all. I'm looking at what you're saying, and it just says, okay. For example, ESPN reported that the Rams-Chiefs game was moved to Los Angeles because of, what is this? It's not. ESPN's pages are just way too heavy with stuff, man. Here we go. I'm actually scrolling down here. Okay, all right. It says players had strongly considered not playing if the league had opted to keep the game in Mexico City. All right. So if you're quoting something that's from conservative media, forget it. because that's ridiculous. I mean, poor field players don't care why the field became poor, okay? And I don't know your name, and therefore I don't know what your political leaning is, but it sounds like you're pushing in some sort of conservative agenda. And I'm not, into that, okay? You're saying that you found this out on your own or reported it? Okay. You know what? The best way to handle this is if you have something and you're serious about it, tell me your name in an email and really send it to me. Because right now I just think I don't think you're being serious, okay? And it doesn't matter the political leaning. What I'm talking about now is just simply having enough to tell a story that's credible. All right, you can't just say things. And from your perspective, you're saying, hey, this really happened and I saw it, but you got to prove it. And I'm not saying that, I'm not the person that says mainstream media has to bless what you said, because mainstream media very often gets things wrong, as you know, today. So that's not what I'm saying. I don't mean to insult you, all right? I'm simply saying, hey, look, I'd love to help break your story, but you got to give me something. You have to send me an email, which you can easily do at Zinni and Zinni62.com, with photographic evidence, video evidence of what you say, so that I can put it out there, because I can get the views and the coverage you seek, okay? So do that first, all right? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be thought of as shutting you down. That's not my intention at all. Now, getting back to the fun part. See, that's what I'm talking about. In fact, this example, what I'm talking about, I want to talk about Mars, all right? Forget all that stuff. That's too earthbound. I want to talk about the Raiders on Mars. And I still don't have the main question I want answered, and it's this. Who should the Raiders' opponent on Mars be? Okay? Who should the Raiders play on Mars? I say it should be the Dallas Cowboys. I should say the Oakland Raiders. There, I said it, right? And on Mars, it could go back to being the Oakland Raiders. You could have an Oakland encampment on Mars, right? Because what? You have no other city to call them. You could say they came from, Vegas, right? But, yeah, they might not even finish their entire tenure in Vegas. Okay? All right? So, hey, Cowboy Wrestler. All right, Cowboy Wrestler, answer. Who should the Raiders play on Mars? I say Dallas Cowboys, all right? All right? Dallas Cowboys, all right? High addresses the Mars Raiders. I say Raiders versus Cowboys on Mars. That's what I say. Raiders versus Cowboys on Mars. There it is. What say you? Okay. Lundquist says, speaking of interstellar, he says, just imagine the Earth with rings. Yeah. But my question is on the floor. Raul Espinoza says, play the New England Patriots. Cowboy Rush says, Cowboys or Steelers. Yeah, Steelers would be good. How about Cowboys or Steelers, right? There's some who want to throw in the Broncos, or maybe the Chiefs, right? But then, God, what the cost of that would be incredible. You would have to take a year. You would have to make it, first of all, as a special game. And the players would have to get acclimated to it. So I would have to say, not a year necessarily, but, a year in practice. So you'd have to take a year of having them practice up there. You'd have to have not just one team, but you'd have to have a series of teams. The Raiders and the Cowboys. Let's say the Raiders or the Cowboys from the representing the AFC and NFC, right? One group, right? And then the Steelers and how about the Patriots? Since the Patriots are so popular, how about the Patriots and the Rams, right? Yeah. So you have the Patriots and the Rams, which is East Coast, West Coast, right? And then the Cowboys and the Raiders. So you have AFC, NFC for both, right? So Miguel says Olympic Mon Stadium. You know what I mean? This is turning out to be something. I like it. This is turning out to be something. Yeah, so you've got that. This is turning out to be something that I think can work. I really do. The stadium cost alone, wow, it would have the stadium cost up there. I mean, just shipping the material there and designing it for that atmosphere. I'm just let me see what the cost of the Mars lander was. Mars landing, Mars lander cost. Okay, the rover mission and launch are estimated to cost 2.1 billion alone. Okay, the mission's predecessor cost the Mars Science Laboratory cost 2.5 billion in total. And it says the availability of spare parts makes the new rover somewhat more affordable. Curiosity's engineering teams are also involved in the rover's design. Okay, so given that, and given the fact that we're talking about a machine, I would say that I'm just going to ballpark this. I'm going to say that getting a stadium built up there is going to cost 40 billion. I would say that's about a good 50 billion dollar project. Yeah, that's just $50 billion to establish not one but several NFL teams, and I think you do it all at once because theoretically, I believe the more teams you add, the lower the cost per team becomes. Now you would say, what do I mean? Well, think about it. You've got one team, right? Let's just take this. Let's say they use this example. It's just Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh represents one team, all right? So you have one team, and so that team provides a kind of what am I trying to say here? A model or a template of needs. Transportation, materials, and design and construction. Transportation, materials, design, construction, and training for the team, right? So transportation from Earth to Mars, construction of the facilities on Mars, design before all of that, and then of course training both on Earth and on Mars, right? And what am I leaving out? Broadcasting, telecasting, all right? But you have one team, you get all of that. So then it becomes a matter of simply adding teams. The next team you have, since you have two teams that are playing each other, that's, two locker rooms, right? Two facilities, right? So the cost, so you see how the cost per team lowers? And then they don't all play at once, of course. So you have one group staying over here, and then they're ready, and they come back, and they switch off, okay? And then when it's time for everybody to go, they can go back to Earth, and it's a long ride. It took, how long did it, yeah, it launched, okay, so it launched, and that's announced that the Crater on Mars will be a landing site for the Mars 2020 rover, which is to launch on July 17th, 2020, but it wouldn't get there until February of 2021. So let's use that as our gauge, right? So let's say we wanted to play in February. That means that the team would have to be ready to go July. So we get it there February. You know what we would have to do? We would have to get them there a full year early. Yeah, so they would have to leave. This is all theoretical. They would have to leave the next year, and then they would get there February of 2020, and then get ready to play that fall, okay? And then when they're done and they leave that February, they come back, what? Because that's July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. That's eight months, right? Yeah. So you have them leave in January, and they get back in August. All right. So that's how how it lays out. So time-wise, it's doable. I mean, it would lead up to some very big events. You'd have the entire planet focused on this event on Mars. Excuse me. And then, of course, by then we're going to have private transport. So you're going to have people who have villas on Mars who want to come up and everything else and check it out, and they're going to have their luxury box in the stadium and everything else. And so, okay, right? So there. So Miguel says, just think of the cost to build a spacecraft station and the flight tickets. Yeah, that alone, that's like, I mean, look, if it costs $50 billion to do this, just the ticket to get there, we're talking about something for millionaires, especially you're talking about something that's $50 billion. And by 2036, you're going to see your first crop of trillionaires the way things are changing, right? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely something that, in order to get political buy-in, because, I mean, you could say, I don't think it's all going to be privately financed. You need government assistance, government permits. So in order to get full political buy-in, you need to carve out something for people who would normally not be able to afford that kind of trip to be able to go on the trip, who, like a contest, right? Then you get, people from different parts of the world that can come along. Yeah, it's something there. I do think this is something. I think we figured it out, folks. I really do. And do you realize that in talking about this, this is a first. And let me type NFL on Mars. I'm just typing NFL on Mars. I get NFL on Mars. When I type NFL on Mars, I get NFL players on Marshawn Lynch. Okay, that's what I get. Now, when I type NFL on Mars, I get nothing. Nothing. All right, I don't get anything. I get James Cameron story on science fiction, Madden NFL on Mars. Is that a game? Or is that, yeah. And I get basketball movie on Mars, Madden NFL on Mars. I think the NFL on Mars that I just typed was just some sort of code trick, okay? Somebody asked me if I believe in Derek Carr. I believe in God. Derek Carr exists. Try asking that a different way. So yeah, I don't get, this is the first time that anybody has discussed, I mean, we've done it, folks. We're the pioneers already, okay? No one has ever talked about this in the history of the league, openly, okay? No one. No one. So consider yourselves part of history. We started it, folks. And you would say, okay, from a monetary standpoint, what would the revenue driver be? And I'll give you the answer in one word: gambling. You would have people around the world betting on who would win the game, who would win the Martian Super Bowl, right? That's what you would have, okay? And, it may very well alter the situation where the two top teams on Earth are then sent to Mars for like the big universal Super Bowl, right? So they leave that year and they play the next year, and that's like a huge deal. And so while they're playing, yeah, how would you, yeah, if they're gone, you can't really play anything because they wouldn't be in existence, huh? Now, it would have to be an exhibition. It would have to be done on an exhibition level. You either do it on an exhibition level with a handful of teams, or you have it even with an exhibition with those teams playing each other, okay? So that's how you would do it. Miguel says, Dream Dreadnought Division Drive Federation. So the person asking me about Derek Carr, forget it. Answer my question. Who should join the Raiders on Mars? I want you to focus on that. I am marking this occasion of the Mars landing. And in fact, I meant to explain that. The new home is Elysium Planitia, a still flat region where it's set to study seismic waves and heat deep below the surface of the red planet for a planned 2-year mission. Think about that. It is Elysium Planitia is a still flat region. What better place to build our stadium, right? That would be fantastic, all right? That's cool. Okay, that is cool. You know, what better place to confirm it, okay? On the red planet, you know? What better place? What better place? This is huge. NASA Insight Team. Members rejoice. All right? So I'm shaking you out of your lethargy. I'm shaking you out of your thinking about one thing all the time. You have to be mentally flexible enough to take two seemingly opposing ideas and consider them as one. That is the purpose here. Miguel says, Providence class dreadnought. You mean to get us Star Trek? You get them up there? Yeah. The NFL would have to have its own transport. And I could see this. The NFL and the NBA teaming up, or the NFL and Major League Soccer merging and having their own space transport vehicles, maybe built with, you know, in conjunction with Elon Musk and SpaceX. Okay, I could see that. I could see that working out. This has got something here. I like it. All right, folks, it is 2:30 in the morning. I've made my point. And we got at least we know it's going to be the Cowboys. We know we got the Steelers and the Cowboys and the Patriots and the Rams, right? Okay, so there we go. I'm signing out. Stay tuned for more normal shows through the week. But think about this one. If you have any more ideas along toward the objective of getting this $50 billion project started, let me know. See you all later. Thanks a lot. Good night. See ya.